Game jams are great. Who wouldn't want to spend every second of a day, a week, or even a month locked in their sweaty gamer cave, toiling away at their puzzle slot platformer or repetitive top-down shooter? I know I would. I've decided to participate in the Krafer game jam this year, run by the YouTuber Krafer. It's a 7-day long game jam and the theme was unexpected. Now, this is a pretty good theme. I had the idea of a shooter game where after a wave of enemies, a wheel is spun to decide if your character can be upgraded or downgraded. I'll admit the scope is a little bit big for a game jam, but if I had the 7 days, I think I could make a fairly decent game. If I had the 7 days, which I did not because the first 2 days were spent on evil exams trying to ruin my game. But after fuck my German exam, I gotta start working. I wanted the player to be this kind of small character, a bit like the Schmoogles in Smiling Friends when Charlie hangs out with them for an episode. My first draft of him was a bit fun. By bit, I mean like really fun. The walk cycle looked like a game straight from hell, so I changed to a much simpler design and I thought it looked a lot better. Then I started adding in the weapons. I wanted a shotgun and an Uzi so the player would have a bit of choice. I started with the shotgun. All I had to do was add a script that let the player fire the gun but with some time in between to prevent spamming. I also had to add multiple places where the bullets could spawn so we would have the same spread a shotgun has like in other games like Enter the Gungeon. The Uzi was a lot easier as it had basically the same scripts as the first one except for it fires a lot quicker and it doesn't have the same spread. And as you can see, it worked flawlessly. As I said, flawlessly. Now, with both the guns done, I had to begin work on some enemies. I didn't have an idea of what enemies I kind of wanted for the game because it didn't have like a set theme yet, so I just added 3 random enemies. The first was a standard one, a bomb, similar to bombs in Mario and TJ Tonal's Fire Beats. It was a simple sprite and the AI only consisted of moving towards the player and exploding instead of taking away critical thinking skills and hindering development. The next was a reindeer. It was similar to the bomb enemy except it has more health and doesn't explode. And the final enemy was a robot, who also had a gun. It was big and tanky and when it was close enough to the player it shoots projectiles damaging them. I only did 3 enemies because I just didn't have time for more because I was already running out of days. I then added in a health system for the player in order to complete the game cycle and then added in a health bar and a game over screen for when the player dies. I also decided that the game would be played in waves. Now, I could only add about 5 waves instead of like a infinite generating one that I originally planned for because I only had 3 days left at this point and that scope would just be too big. I did text in between the waves for the player to know what wave it is and began work on the roulette wheel. Now this was the most important part of the game so I knew I had to lock in for it. First I had to make the sprites and it had 3 different components. The outer wheel acting as a frame, the inner wheel which spins the ball, and the ball which spins around the outer wheel. Then I put it into Unity and added it in between waves and let it alter characteristics of the player like fire rate and speed and health. At the start when the wheel first appears, it generates a random number from 1 to 3. If the number is 1 or 2, the player will get an upgrade and will play the animation that has the ball land in the green. But if it generates 3, it will downgrade the player and play the animation where the ball lands in the red area. I did this at like 3 in the morning, so the code is the sloppiest thing you've ever seen, but it works and that's all that matters. Now we're in the final stretch of the game jam. I had about 6 hours to polish the game and upload it. I started by adding a main menu, which it wasn't the best, but it would work. I then added sound effects using SFXR for the bomb, upgrades, gun, and robot. Then I added some music to the game. Now, video game music has just never been and will never be my strong point. Every time I've tried to make some for a game, it sounds like when XQC decided to bless us with his beats. So I just used my electric guitar and my shitty $30 amp with a pillow next to it to record a main menu theme and an in-game riff. It only took about 30 minutes because they were piss simple riffs, there was only a few power chords in them, and the game was done. I didn't really have enough time for any big changes, so I just submitted it on itch.io a few hours early, and the game wasn't cropped properly, so it was hard to see the sides of the game. Now, I don't think that the game turned out how I want. The gameplay was stale and repetitive because the waves didn't change and the upgrades were the same. This was made clear in the reviews of the game, but I do think that this was a good concept for a game and would work with more time and more care put into it. People did like the music though, which I was pretty surprised about because it's kind of repetitive and sounds fairly unoriginal. But I had a really fun time with the jam and was very happy I did it, and it was a really nice thing to do after evil. have exams ruining my day. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.